Hey guys, what's up? So today we're gonna deal with extremely important poverty indicators. Mind you, these are 100% gonna be asked either in the mains or in the essay. Even if they don't ask you, use them as much as you can. They are highly beneficial. They are basically human poverty index and multidimensional poverty index. So I'll tell you what are the differences and how they are calculated and what is their significance. This is me. This is the YouTube channel Unacademy. So if you have any doubt or any query, you can ask on this Facebook page, facebook.com/unacademy, and please comment below the video on YouTube or on the Facebook page. Do spread the word of this education revolution. See, Human Poverty Index is an index. It was basically part of the Human Development Report, which was made between 1997 to 2010. Okay, so after 2010, there was major changes like IHDI was introduced, GII was introduced. Similarly, HPI was removed. Okay, it was completely discontinued and it was replaced by MPI. The term which can be used is supplanted rather than supplemented. Supplant means overthrowing. It basically includes the same thing as HDI, so there is no difference. Life expectancy is there, knowledge is there, and standard of living is there. While I was preparing for the civils, I used to read about it because there was no MPI in 2010-11, but then it came, so I know this in quite detail. So it might be asked sometimes. Just for your knowledge sake, HPI 1 is calculated for developing countries. See, poverty is not there in developed countries that much. Okay, so you cannot measure in the same index. So HPI 2 was devised for OECD countries, that is Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, which are supposedly the developed nations of the world, which have high per capita income, high life expectancy, high rate of employment, etc., high literacy rates. So this was the difference between HPI 1 and HPI 2. One is for developing countries and two is for OECD nations. Now HPI 1 for developing countries, it includes probability of not surviving till age of 40. In case of developing countries, it is 60. And then it includes adult illiteracy rate. In case of developed country, it is functional literacy skills. Okay. And finally, P3 includes population who lives without improved water source and children underweight for age. This is mean. Okay. So basically without any weights, the average is taken of these two. Now how it is calculated using P1, P2, P3. So if let's say P1 is let's say zero point 0.9 while P2 is zero point 0.1 and P3 is zero point 0.1. So will it reflect the correct way? No, it will be biased much towards it. It will be somewhere around 0.37, something like that. Okay, is that understood? But to give proper weightage to all three of them, you need to cube it and then take a cube root of all of it. How it is done? It is done using this formula. So as you can see, HDI 1 can be calculated like this. P1 to the power alpha, where alpha is equals to 3, and P to the power 3, and then the entire thing is taken. Okay, it is the HPI for developing nations. Is that understood? So that is how you penalize that which is, if you are lagging in some parameter, you penalize it very heavily because you cube it and then it becomes much more amplified. Now HPI for developed nations or OECD is calculated in the form of this. P1 is till 60 as I told you. P2 is having functional literacy skills, not having functional literacy skills. P3 is population below income poverty level or income poverty line, and P4 is rate of long term employment or unemployment, which is year or more. So if you just calculate a simple average, then even if there is huge deviation, it will be neutralized because mean is tend to neutralize. But if you take a cube root of that deviation, it will become very big and then it will be severely penalized. That is the point of HPI's alpha formula, in which you make cube and then take the cube root. Now HPI for developed nations is calculated in the form of probability of not surviving till age of 60 because the standards are higher, then adults who does not have functional literacy skills, then population below income poverty line, and finally long term unemployment rate. What is long term? More than 12 months or equal to 12 months, basically more than a year. So the calculation formula is exactly same. Alpha is again here 3, not 4. So it is again to penalize if there is a huge deviation in one of the parameter. Okay, so to penalize and exaggerate it, and to give a better picture of poverty, this formula is used. And I have told you what are P1, P2, P3, P4, but HPI is completely discontinued, and we now use a much better sophisticated version called as MPI. Now, what is MPI? MPI is basically multi-dimensional poverty index, as the name suggests. It supplements income-based poverty measurement criteria. What does it mean? So let's say in India we have income level BPL and APL. So if you earn, let's say an arbitrary number, if you earn more than 100, you are above poverty line. If you earn less than 100, you are below poverty line. It's an arbitrary number. Okay, so to supplement that data, because it's too simplistic, right? So to supplement that data you can use MPI. Okay, now 2010 reports onwards, that is HDR report, human development report, it was calculated, MPI was calculated, it came out in 2011, and it said more than half of India's population, that is at that time 612 million, was multidimensionally poor. The score was 0.283 and it was bad than Bangladesh. Okay, is that understood? So even our poorer neighbor, we were performing very bad. MPI basically complements monetary measures of poverty, as I have already told you, income level basically, and it includes overlapping deprivation. If you just want to remember one keyword, please remember it includes overlapping deprivations. It includes severe deprivations, multiple deprivations, which are suffered by the people. Okay, is that understood? Please remember this term. This is the only thing which is important. Now, Oxford poverty and HDI, it is also called as OPHI. This is the body which calculates it along with United Nations Development Program, UNDP. Now it identifies deprivations in the same three dimensions as the HDI, but the indicators are much more. Now it basically shows the number of people who are multidimensionally poor, that is who are suffering deprivations in 33% of weighted indicators. So for example, if there are 10 indicators, okay, so let's say you are deprived in 4. Does it mean that you are MPI? Since it says 33%, people says yes, it is MPI poor, but no, it is not necessary. It is 33% weighted indicators. Okay, even if you are poor in 5 out of 10, it does not mean that you are MPI poor. This is a mistake which amateur aspirants do. See, it does not matter it's 5 or it's 3. Even in 3 you can be MPI poor, even in 5 you cannot be. I'll tell you how it works. Now, number of deprivations with which poor household typically lives is also shown with MPI data, and it can be made according to the region or ethnicity, caste, class, as well as by dimension wise. Any dimension can be taken. So it's a great tool for policymakers who decides how the poverty should be tackled. Now, MPI is basically your incidence of poverty multiplied by average intensity of the poverty. Is that understood? In intensity into incidence. Incidence is percentage of MPI poor people, while average intensity is denoted by A. So H into A is equals to MPI, just in case if someone asks. Now there are basically 10 indicators which you should remember. In case of health, we include child mortality and nutrition level. In case of education, we include years of schooling and school attendance. Okay, and living standards include cooking fuel, toilet, water, electricity, floor, assets. So now it is, see, MCQ can be asked which of the following is not included. And even in case of essay type answers, if you write which of the following are there, it gives a very good impression that you have remembered your stuff. So how to remember all of them? Either you can use one is sun, two is shoe trick, which I have told you earlier in memory techniques, or we can use the visualization method. It will just take you like 1 minute to remember it and you will never forget it. So how to do it? Let me start with here. So let's assume this is an house. Okay, this is a big house or a room, a single room in a house. Okay, is that understood? Now here is a table or a bed where baby is lying down. Okay, and he's suffering from diarrhea. Okay, just remember this. Just try to visualize this. This is an amazing technique. He is suffering from diarrhea, and here is the kitchen, and the floor is made up of cow dung. Okay, just remember this. Just try to follow me. This is the gas stove, and here is the gas where mother is. Here is the mother, and she is cooking something. Okay, is that understood? She is cooking something for her baby to eat. Okay, just remember this, something is going on, some fumes are coming out. And here is a radio which is playing out some songs, and here is a study room where a kid is reading some books. Okay, so here is an open book and he is trying to read it because he has a test in school tomorrow. Okay, and here is a father who is sitting and who is tired because he was working in the labor as a laborer in the fields. Okay, because he could not go to school for much of the years. And finally the mother comes here and she takes the baby to the toilet. Okay, is that understood? And outside the toilet is a light, so because he has diarrhea, so it's their toilet is there. And just as she goes to toilet, so she ensures that there is running water coming out of the tap. Okay, so now you know this picture, it's very easy for you to now comprehend what I am trying to talk about. Now this picture will always stick in your head no matter how hard you try not to remember this. First of all, by diarrhea I wanted to say that this child is sick, so he can suffer from death also, so that leads to child mortality. That is number one indicator. For that the mother is cooking something, so she wants to take care of the nutrition of the family. That's number two. Okay, now the number three comes, obviously what we are talking about till now, education parameter, right? So children, the child is studying in wants to go to school for the attendance, so the third is school attendance. Okay, so that's why he's studying too hard. The father works as a laborer because he could not had expected years of schooling, so years of schooling, that is the fourth parameter or the fourth indicator. So these two dimensions are covered, health and education. Now come to this floor. So the floor is made up of cow dung. Okay, so this is the fifth parameter, the floor. There is a radio playing songs, so it means this is the sixth parameter, that is the asset. Okay, now mother is cooking fuel, so there is a mother is cooking on gas, so it is a cooking fuel. So the seventh is cooking fuel. Okay, please try to visualize it as much as you can, it is an amazing technique. Okay, so now as you can see there is a bulb outside, so eighth is related to electricity. Okay, ninth is related to the toilet itself, because just try to visualize the entire picture, and since there is running water, so the 10th is related to water. This is as simple as that, and now you remember MPI in details. Try to make these diagrams. This is called as visualization technique of memory, and it works like a charm. So I was telling you that even if a person is poor in 5 dimensions of standard of living, he will have a weighted score of 27.7%, which will not make him MPI poor. It at least 33% weighted average is required. So in education, you give high. All the three have 1/6, 1/6, 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 weightage. So the total weightage is 1. Education has 1/3, but since there are only two, so each has 1/6. Okay, health also has 1/6, but in standard of living 1/18th. Okay, so just remember this because there are 6 of them, that is why 1/18th. So do not go by number of dimensions, go by weighted average. Weighted average is more important than number of dimensions when it comes to MPI. Now education, as I've already told you, years of schooling, the criteria is at least 5 years of schooling is needed. D means deprived, so you will be termed deprived if no household. HH means household. This is a basic medical science community medicine lingo. The second is child school attendance, so you are deprived if any child who is age appropriate, that is going to school, let's say age is between anywhere between 5 to 16, and he is not attending the school before finishing class 8th. This is the second criteria. Now third is the health. Child mortality. If there is any child mortality in the family, it is deprived. Nutrition means if there is any adult or child malnourished. Now standard of living is obviously electricity, means if you have no electricity then you are deprived. Sanitation means if it is either not improved according to the MDG standards, Millennium Development Goal, or it is shared with other households. Then drinking water is if you do not have access to safe drinking water, then you are deprived, or if you have to walk for more than half an hour, then also you are deprived. Floor means if you have household that is dirt, sand, or dung floor. As I've already spoken, since it was a cow dung floor, so they were deprived in this. Cooking fuel means if the household cooks with dung, wood, or charcoal. again you're deprived. You should have a modern cooking fuel. Assets, you don't need to remember any of this, just for your sake, radio, TV, telephone, etc., or car or truck or etc. So these were the 10 indicators. So finally, critical analysis of MPI, there are lots of advantages. It identifies the most vulnerable, poorest of the poorest among the entire lot. It reveals spatial means according to the space, that is region. Temporal means time, that is varies with time and space. Inter and intra nation, that is within nation and between nation, for example Bangladesh versus India, or for example UP versus Rajasthan. And regional variation, for example districts in UP or Marathwad region versus the western Maharashtra region. Is that understood? So it can give you a lot of data. It, from that data you can have effective allocation of resources, and you can strategize, you can plan, and you can target the greatest intensity of poverty. Those people who suffer with greatest intensity of poverty can be targeted. It addresses MDGs and SDGs, that is Millennium and Sustainable Development Goals. You can also monitor if there is any impact. By policy to bana di, you have made the policy, but whether it is functioning or not, that you can monitor through these MPIs. And it can be adapted for national poverty eradication programs. And it can be used to study changes over time, already spoken. It has more indicators than human poverty index and HDI, so it is much better and it is less susceptible to bias. For example, GDP per capita, if you have high, then your HDI tends also to be at higher level, so there is a bias. But in MPI it does not matter, and it need much more data, so there is one problem also. So it can be calculated for only around 100 nations. What about other 100 nations? So there are close to 200 countries on this earth, so you should include all of them, but MPI does not. So I hope you like this tutorial. Do spread the word and be a part of this education revolution. These are the URLs where you can ask the question. Do hit thumbs up, it's really appreciated. And thank you for watching the tutorial. Have an awesome day.